3 months had passed since the Battle of New Bizin. The galaxy had watched and waited to see what the humans would do with their victory. Would they conquer? Would they enslave? Would they burn the Velith homeworld as so many empires had done to defeated enemies throughout history? They did none of these things. The peace treaty was signed on HFY in the same throne room where Supreme Hierarch Vasek had dismissed Torvan's warnings. Now Vasek sat on his ancient throne and watched a human ambassador present terms that seemed almost impossible to believe. No territory will be seized from the Velith Dominion. Ambassador Jiang Hairen read from the document in her hands. No financial reparations will be demanded. No Velith citizens will be taken as prisoners or servants. Vasek leaned forward. And what do you want in return? 3 things. Ambassador Jiang held up one finger. First, you will reduce your military fleet to defensive capabilities only. No more invasion forces. No more weapons of mass destruction. That is reasonable, Vasek admitted reluctantly. Second, you will open your borders to free trade with human space and our allies. Economic partnership instead of economic warfare. Also reasonable. Third, Ambassador Jiang looked directly at the Supreme Hierarch with eyes that had seen much suffering in their years. You will formally recognize human sovereignty. You will acknowledge that we are equals in this galaxy. Not children. Not prey. Equals. The word hung in the air for a long moment. Vasek's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of strong emotion among his people. For 12,000 years, the Velith had considered themselves superior to all other species. Now they were being asked to abandon that belief completely. Very well, Vasek said finally. We accept your terms. The treaty was signed. The war was over. And across the galaxy, observers from dozens of species watched in confusion and wonder. 2 weeks later, Ambassador Jiang stood before the Galactic Assembly. Representatives from every spacefaring civilization in the known galaxy filled the massive chamber. Some had come out of curiosity. Others had come out of fear. All of them wanted to understand what the humans were planning. Thank you for this opportunity to address the assembly, Jiang began. Her voice was calm and steady, amplified to reach every corner of the vast hall. I know many of you have questions. I know many of you are afraid. You have seen what happened to the Velith fleet. You are wondering if your people will be next. She paused, letting the silence stretch. We have no interest in conquest. We have no desire to rule the galaxy. We did not fight the Velith because we wanted their worlds or their resources. We fought them because they gave us no choice. They entered our space uninvited. They ignored our warnings. They threatened our people. Jiang walked to the center of the speaking platform, where everyone could see her clearly. You wonder why we show mercy to defeated enemies. Why we did not destroy the Velith fleet when we had the chance. Why we offered peace terms that take almost nothing from a species that tried to take everything from us. She took a deep breath. It is because we remember what it was like to be weak. We remember what it was like to be afraid. We remember what it was like to face extinction. Images appeared on screens throughout the chamber. Old images. Images from Earth's history. Wars and plagues and disasters. Humanity's long struggle to survive on a world that seemed determined to kill them. We came from a death world. Everything on our planet tried to kill us. The weather. The predators. The diseases, even each other. Jiang's voice carried a weight of old pain. We survived not by being the strongest or the fastest or the smartest. We survived by being the most stubborn, by refusing to give up, by helping each other when times were hardest. The images changed. Now they showed humans building cities, launching rockets, reaching for the stars. When we finally left our world, we thought we would find friends among the stars. Instead, We found species who looked at us and saw only prey. We found empires that wanted to enslave us. We found powers that wanted to destroy us before we became a threat. So we learned. We adapted. We became what we needed to become to survive. The images showed human ships, human soldiers, human weapons, the power that had crushed the Velith fleet in 3 hours. We do not want your worlds. We do not want your submission. We do not want your fear. Zhang's eyes moved across the chamber, meeting the gazes of 100 different species. We want something far more valuable. She stepped forward, her voice rising. We want you to remember. When the next great threat comes, and it will come, remember who could have destroyed you and chose not to. Remember who showed mercy when they could have shown cruelty. Remember who to call when your backs are against the wall and you have nowhere else to turn. The chamber was absolutely silent. That is what humanity offers the galaxy. Not conquest, not control, partnership, protection. The knowledge that somewhere out there, among all the cold and empty stars, there is a species that believes in something more than power. Ambassador Zhang turned and walked back to her seat. Behind her, the assembly erupted in noise. Diplomats argued. Representatives debated. Some scoffed at her words. Others seemed thoughtful. A few, just a few, looked at the human ambassador with something like hope. Far from the assembly chamber, on a small colony world at the edge of human space, Relax walked through a human city for the first time. He had been assigned as a cultural liaison between the Velith Dominion and the United Earth government. It was a strange position for a former military officer, but he had accepted it gladly. Humans moved around him on the streets. They glanced at his alien form with curiosity, but no fear. Children pointed and whispered. Adults nodded politely. A few even smiled. First time in a human city? A voice came from beside him. Relax turned to see an elderly human woman sitting on a bench, watching him with kind eyes. Yes, I am still learning your ways. We are not so complicated. The woman patted the bench beside her. Sit, rest. You look tired. Relax sat, folding his forearms in his lap. I am trying to understand your people. I have studied your history, your culture, your wars. But I still do not understand the most important thing. And what is that? Why you show mercy. Your species has every reason to be cruel. You have been attacked and invaded and threatened by so many others. Yet, when you win, you do not punish. You do not destroy. You offer peace and partnership. Relax shook his head. In my experience, power corrupts. Those who have strength use it to dominate. But humans do not seem to follow this rule. The old woman was quiet for a moment. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small photograph. It showed a group of humans, young and old, gathered around a table covered with food. My family, she said. 3 generations. We survived wars, economic collapse, and a plague that killed millions. We survived because we helped each other. Because we believed that tomorrow could be better than today if we worked together. She put the photograph away. Humanity learned long ago that revenge feels good, but solves nothing. That destroying your enemies just creates new enemies who hate you even more. That mercy is not weakness. Mercy is an investment in the future. She smiled. Every enemy we spare is a potential ally we gain. Every planet we choose not to burn is a place where our children might live someday. So it is strategy, self-interest. Partly, but it is also something more. The woman looked up at the sky, where distant stars were just becoming visible in the evening light. We choose mercy because we want to be the kind of species that chooses mercy. We want to be better than our worst moments. We want to prove that intelligence and compassion can exist together. Relax thought about her words for a long time. He thought about the battle where his people had lost everything. We thought about the battle where his people had lost everything. He thought about the humans who had treated Velith wounded with the same care they showed their own soldiers. He thought about Admiral Kwan's final message to War Master Drenuk. Maybe he was beginning to understand. On Earth, Captain Yoon-Ha-Jun sat in his new office at Border Command. He had been promoted after the battle, given a bigger ship and more responsibility. But some things never changed. An alert appeared on his console. A new species had been detected approaching human space. Their ships were large and heavily armed. They had ignored the automated warning beacon. Ha-Jun sighed and opened a communication channel. On the screen, an alien face appeared. Large eyes, sharp teeth, an expression of absolute confidence. "Human vessel," the alien said. "We are the Karth Supremacy. We claim this region of space in the name of our glorious empire. You will surrender your territory or face destruction." Ha-Jun looked at Lieutenant Beek So-Ra, who was sitting at the communications console beside him. She raised one eyebrow. "Here we go again," she muttered. Ha-Jun turned back to the screen. His voice was calm and steady, the same tone he had used with Commander Torvan. The same tone he would use with every species foolish enough to ignore human warnings. "I am Captain Yoon-Ha-Jun of the United Earth Defense Force. You have entered human-controlled space without authorization. You have 60 seconds to reverse course. This is not a negotiation." The Korath commander laughed. "One small ship threatens the supremacy? You are either very brave or very stupid. 50 seconds. You cannot frighten us, human. We have conquered 100 worlds. We have 40 seconds." The throne room of SciFiPrime had stood for 8,000 years. Its walls were carved from black stone pulled from the deepest mines of the home world. Its ceiling rose so high the clouds sometimes formed beneath it. For generations beyond counting, this room had witnessed the glory of the Velith Dominion. Today, it witnessed shamed. Fleet Commander Torvan knelt before the Supreme Hierarch Vasek. His head bowed, his forearms pressed flat against the cold floor. Around him, the High Council watched in silence. The air felt heavy with anger and disappointment. "You allowed one ship to capture you," Vasek said. His voice was ancient and dry, like wind blowing through dead leaves. "One ship. And then you ran home to tell us scary stories about human power. Supreme Hierarch, I speak only the truth. The humans are children." Vasek's voice rose to a roar that echoed off the stone walls. "They've existed for less than an eye blink of history. They are nothing compared to our glory." Torvan kept his head down. He had expected this reaction. He had prepared for it during the long journey home. But he had to try. "They knew about the invasion fleet," he said. "They knew everything. Our ship numbers, our weapons, our planned routes. Someone has betrayed us, or they have intelligence capabilities beyond anything we imagined." The High Council members shifted uncomfortably. War Master Drenuk, commander of the invasion fleet, stepped forward. He was the largest Velith in the room, with battle scars covering his scales and medals covering his chest. "I have studied human tactics," Drenuk said. "They are clever, yes. They use tricks and deception. But they are not invincible. Their fleet is smaller than ours. Their worlds are fewer. When we bring the full power of the Dominion against them, they will break like all the others." Vasek nodded slowly. "The War Master speaks wisdom. We will not be frightened by one bad experience. The invasion will proceed as planned." "Supreme Hierarch," Torvan said desperately, "I beg you to reconsider. Send diplomats first. Send messengers. Test their strength before committing our entire fleet." "You beg?" Vasek's eyes narrowed. "The Velith do not beg. We do not test. We do not ask permission." He waved one of his hands in dismissal. "The invasion fleet launches in 3 days. And you, Torvan, will accompany them. You will watch as we prove your fears wrong. You will see the humans burn." Torvan rose slowly to his feet. There was nothing more he could say. The decision had been made. 800 warships would enter human space, and the galaxy would see who was truly powerful. He only hoped that some of them would survive to learn the lesson. 3 days later, the invasion fleet departed HFY. It was the largest military force the Dominion had assembled in 2,000 years. 800 warships stretched across space in a formation that took hours to pass any single point. Weapons bristled from every hull. Soldiers filled every deck. The pride of 12,000 years of empire flew toward human territory. Torvan watched from the observation deck of War Master Drenuk's flagship. The Conqueror's fist. Relax stood beside him, equally quiet, equally worried. Neither of them spoke. What was there to say? "Beautiful, is it not?" Drenuk's voice came from behind them. The War Master joined them at the viewport, his arms folded across his massive chest. "This fleet could burn 100 worlds. The humans have perhaps 50 ships defending their border. We outnumber them 16 to 1. "Numbers did not help my ship," Torvan said quietly. "Your ship was caught by surprise. We will not make the same mistake." Drenuk turned to face them directly. "I have assigned you both to my advisory staff. You have seen human tactics firsthand. You will help us avoid their traps." Relax shifted nervously. "War Master, I studied their history extensively during our captivity. The humans have a saying. They call it the art of war, learned from an ancient strategist on their home world. What does this strategist say? He says that the greatest victory is to win without fighting. He says that all warfare is based on deception. He says," Relax paused, choosing his words carefully. "He says that you should never interrupt an enemy when they are making a mistake." Drenuk laughed, a deep rumbling sound. "These are the words of cowards. Real warriors face their enemies directly. Real warriors prove their strength through battle, not tricks. The humans did not seem like cowards when they boarded our ship." The War Master's laughter stopped. His eyes hardened. "You speak much of human strength, Relax. Perhaps you should remember whose uniform you wear." Relax bowed his head. "Forgive me, War Master. I only wish to help us succeed. Then help by remembering that we are Velith. We have conquered dozens of species. We have built an empire that spans the stars. And we will add these humans to our collection of victories." Drenuk turned back to the viewport. "Now leave me. I wish to enjoy this moment in peace." They left the observation deck and walked through the corridors of the flagship. Velith soldiers passed them in both directions, preparing weapons, checking equipment, discussing the coming battle with eager voices. Everyone was confident. Everyone expected victory. Torvan stopped at a quiet intersection and leaned against the wall. "They are not listening, Relax. None of them are listening. I know. When we enter human space, they will kill us. All of us. 800 ships will become 800 graves." Relax was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that surprised Torvan. "Maybe not all of us. Maybe that is the point." "What do you mean?" "The humans could have killed us easily. They chose not to. They captured us, they questioned us, and then they sent us home with a message." Relax looked at Torvan with serious eyes. "Why would they do that if they just wanted to destroy us? They wanted us to warn our people. They wanted us to prevent this war. But we failed. No one believed us." "Not no one?" "You believed. I believed. And when this is over, when the Dominion learns the truth, they will need people who understood. They will need people who can explain what happened and why." Relax put one of his hands on Torvan's shoulder. We may not be able to stop this war, but perhaps we can help end it before everyone dies. Far ahead of the fleet, undetected by any sensor, a small human drone floated in the darkness of space. It had been waiting for 3 weeks, watching, listening, recording every transmission from the approaching armada. When the Velith fleet crossed into human space, the drone activated. It sent a single burst transmission to the nearest human relay station. The message was simple. They are here. 800 ships, heading for New Bizan. On the colony world of New Bizan, Governor Park Min-seo received the alert in her office. She was a civilian administrator, a woman who had spent her career building schools and hospitals and parks. She had never expected to face an invasion. How long until they arrive? She asked her military advisor. Approximately 72 hours, Governor. And our defense fleet? Admiral Kwan's forces are positioned along the projected approach route. They will engage when the time is right. Governor Park walked to her window and looked out at the city below. 4 million people lived on New Bizan. 4 million people who had come here seeking new lives on a new world. They were farmers and teachers and engineers. They were families with children, elders with stories, young people with dreams. Begin evacuation procedures for non-essential personnel, she said. Women, children, and elderly to the shelter facilities. All able-bodied adults who wish to help with defense should report to Sergeant Major Oh Kyung-hee at the military complex. Governor, the fleet may intercept them before they reach the planet. Evacuation could cause unnecessary panic. Or the fleet may fail, and those people will need those extra hours to reach safety. Governor Park turned back to face her advisor. I will not gamble with civilian lives. Begin the evacuation. In the military complex on the edge of the city, Sergeant Major Oh Kyung-hee reviewed her defense preparations. She was 63 years old, with silver hair and scars that told stories she never shared. She had fought in 3 previous alien conflicts. She had watched friends die and enemies surrender. She knew what war looked like up close. The orbital defense platforms are online, her lieutenant reported. Ground-based weapons are charged and ready. All troops are in position. Good. And the special packages? Hidden throughout the projected landing zones. If any Velith make it to the surface, they will receive a very warm welcome. Oh Kyung-hee allowed herself a small smile. The humans had learned long ago that the best defense was one your enemy never saw coming. The Velith thought they were attacking a soft civilian colony. They had no idea what was waiting for them in space. The invasion fleet crossed deeper into human territory. They expected resistance at the border. They found nothing. Empty space. Silent stars. No ships. No weapons platforms. No minds. War. Master Drenok stood on his bridge and frowned at the emptiness. Where are they? Where are the human defenders? No one could answer. As the fleet passed a seemingly empty asteroid field, something activated. A small drone, hidden among the rocks for months, powered up its transmitter. It broadcast a single word across every Velith communication frequency. Welcome. Drenok stared at the message on his screen. Behind him, Torvan and Relax exchanged a look of pure dread. The trap was about to spring, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. The counter showed 15 seconds when Torvan made his decision. It was the wrong decision. He would understand that later. But in that moment, with his crew watching and his pride burning, he could not bring himself to run from a single human ship. Weapons officer, he commanded. Fire a warning shot across their bow. Show them we are not afraid. Commander, please reconsider, Relax begged. The humans, do it now. The Quiet Blade's main cannon fired. A bright beam of energy cut through space, passing close to the Sentinel's watch. It was not meant to hit. It was meant to send a message. It was meant to show strength. The response came in less than 3 seconds. Space around the quiet blade suddenly filled with light. Ships appeared from nowhere. 6 human vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a perfect circle around the Veloth scout ship. They had not been visible on any sensor. They had not given any warning. One moment there was empty space, and the next moment there were warships. Tarvan's weapons officer made a small sound of terror. They were there the whole time. They were right there, and we never saw them. The human ships were not large. Each one was perhaps half the size of the quiet blade, but they moved with a speed and precision that Tarvan had never seen before. They took positions around his vessel like predators surrounding wounded prey. "Commander," the sensor officer reported, his voice shaking, "all 6 ships have weapons locked on us. They could fire from every direction at once. Our shields cannot cover all angles." Before Tarvan could respond, another ship arrived. This one was different. It was larger than the others, built like a predator, with sharp angles and dark armor that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. The word "Unbroken Promise" was painted on its hull in both human letters and Galactic Common Script. A new face appeared on the communication screen. This human was older than Captain Yoon, a female with gray streaks in her black hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of many years and many battles. Her uniform carried more symbols than the young captain's. She looked at Tarvan like he was an insect that had crawled onto her dinner plate. "I am Admiral Quan Taeyang," she said, "commander of the 7th Border Defense Group. You just fired a weapon in human-controlled space." Tarvan tried to sound confident. "It was a warning shot. Nothing more." "Yes, and now I will give you a warning of my own." The Admiral's eyes were cold and hard. "Every species gets one chance with us. One moment of mercy. One opportunity to turn around and go home and pretend this never happened. You just use yours. You would start a war over one shot?" "I would end a war over one shot," Admiral Quan replied. "We have found that endings are cleaner when they come quickly." Tarvan opened his mouth to argue, but Relax suddenly grabbed his arm again. The sub-commander had been reading something on his personal screen, and his face had gone pale. "Commander, I pulled the historical files. Everything the humans are saying is true. In the last 200 years, 11 species have tried to invade human space. 11 species. And none of them exist anymore." Relax's voice dropped to a whisper. "Not destroyed. Not conquered. Just gone. The humans took their fleets, took their colonies, took their home worlds. Those species either surrendered completely and became part of human territory, or they were erased from the galaxy." Tarvan felt the cold feeling return to his chest. "That is impossible. No one could." The Vrix Collective. 40 ships. Gone in 6 hours. The Morvani Empire. 200 ships. Surrendered after 3 days. Enough. Tarvan turned back to the screen. Admiral Quan was still watching him with those cold eyes. She had heard everything. Of course, she had heard everything. The humans probably had listening devices on his bridge that he could not even detect. "Admiral," Tarvan said slowly, "perhaps we can discuss this. Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding. You entered our space uninvited. You ignored our warning. You fired a weapon. These are facts." The Admiral leaned forward slightly. "Now here is another fact. Your engines are about to fail." "What?" Before the word finished leaving his mouth, the quiet blade shuddered. The lights flickered. The engine status display turned red. "Direct hit to our drive systems," the engineering officer reported. "We are dead in space. I did not even see them fire." Tarvan spun around, looking at his crew with wild eyes. "How? Our shields were at full power. How did they hit us?" No one answered. No one could answer. On the screen, Admiral Kwan spoke again. Commander Shin, begin boarding operations. Standard procedure. No casualties unless necessary. Yes, Admiral. A younger voice came from somewhere off-screen. Tarvan watched in horror as small craft launched from the human ships. They were boarding pods, carrying soldiers. They moved toward the quiet blade like a swarm of insects. All crew, prepare to repel boarders. Torvan shouted. Security teams to all entry points. We will fight to the last. You will lose, Admiral Kwan interrupted. Your security teams are carrying pulse rifles. Effective range of 50 meters. Rate of fire, 1 shot per second. Your body armor is rated for medium caliber weapons. Your training covers standard boarding defense tactics. She smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. My Marines carry weapons you have never seen. They wear armor you cannot penetrate. They have trained for situations you cannot imagine. And they are very, very good at what they do. The first boarding pod connected to the Quiet Blade's hull. Torvan heard the sound of cutting tools burning through metal. His security teams were already in position, weapons raised, ready to fight. The fight lasted 4 minutes. Torvan listened to the reports coming through his communication system. Human soldiers moving through his ship like ghosts. His security teams firing and missing, firing and missing. The humans did not fire back. They did not need to. They simply appeared behind the Velas soldiers, applying some kind of device to their necks, and watched them fall unconscious. Not dead, unconscious. The humans were taking his ship without killing anyone. In some ways, that was more terrifying than slaughter. When the bridge doors opened, Torvan saw his first human soldier up close. The Marine was shorter than him, wearing black armor that covered every inch of skin. The helmet had no visible eyes, just a smooth dark surface that reflected nothing. The human moved without sound, like a shadow given solid form. Fleet Commander Torvan, the Marine said. The voice came through the helmet, calm and professional. You will come with us. The Admiral wishes to speak with you in person. They took him to the Unbroken Promise. They walked him through corridors filled with human crew members who barely glanced at him. They brought him to a room where Admiral Kwan Tae-yang sat behind a simple desk, waiting. Sit down, Commander. Torvan sat. He had no strength left to resist. I'm going to give you a choice, the Admiral said. You can stay here as our guest. We will treat you well. We will ask you questions about your people and your fleet. Eventually, we will release you. Or you can go home now. Today, we will give you a small shuttle and enough fuel to reach Velaspace. Admiral Kwan's eyes never left his face. But you will carry a message to your High Council. What message? The Admiral stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, Tarvan could see the crippled, quiet blade floating in space, surrounded by human ships. Tell them that we know about the invasion fleet at HFY. Tell them we have known for 6 months. Tell them we know how many ships, what weapons they carry, and what routes they plan to take. Torvan's blood went cold. That is not possible. Our plans are. Tell them that we are looking forward to meeting them. Admiral Kwan turned back to face him. Tell them that if they come, they will receive the same mercy I showed you today. 1 chance, 1 warning, and then nothing but consequences. She smiled again, and this time it was almost warm. We really do hope they turn around, Commander. Truly. But somehow, I suspect they will not. Your species has too much pride. Just like you. Torvan lowered his head. He had no words left. He had entered human space thinking he would find weakness. Instead, he had found something far more dangerous. He had found a species that did not need to threaten, because everyone already knew exactly what they could do. I will deliver your message, he said quietly. Good. Admiral Kwan pressed a button on her desk. Lieutenant, prepare a shuttle for our guest. Give him food and water for the journey. Make sure he is comfortable. As they led him away, Torvin looked back one last time at the human admiral. She had already returned to her work, dismissing him from her thoughts. To her, this was routine. Just another day. Just another foolish species that had failed to listen. He wondered how many times she had done this before. He suspected he did not want to know the answer. The word welcome hung in the air like a death sentence. War Master Drennock stared at the message, his hands gripping the edge of his command console so hard that the metal began to bend. Find them, he ordered. Full sensor sweep. Maximum range. Find those human ships. War Master, sensors show nothing. The asteroid field is empty. There is nothing here but rocks. Then, why did that drone activate? Why now? Drennock spun toward his tactical officer. Check again. Check everything. Torvin stepped forward. His voice was quiet but urgent. War Master, we need to stop the fleet. We need to reverse course immediately. The humans are here. They are all around us. We just cannot see them. Nonsense. 800 ships cannot be ambushed by the universe exploded. The asteroid field came alive. What had looked like ordinary rocks revealed themselves as weapons platforms, hidden and waiting for this exact moment. They opened fire simultaneously, and the outer edge of the Velith formation vanished in fire and light. 30 ships died in the first 3 seconds. Drennock shouted orders. The fleet scattered, trying to escape the kill zone. Ships fired back at the weapons platforms, destroying dozens of them. But for every platform they killed, more seemed to appear. War Master! The sensor officer's voice cracked with terror. Contacts appearing inside our formation. Human ships. They are everywhere. They were flying alongside us the whole time. Torvin looked at the tactical display and felt his heart stop. The sensor officer was not exaggerating. Human vessels were decloaking throughout the Velith fleet, appearing in the spaces between ships, already at perfect firing positions. They had been there for hours, maybe days. Flying invisible, waiting for the signal. Impossible, Drennock whispered. Our sensors are the best in the galaxy. We would have detected them. Your sensors are excellent, a new voice said over the communication system. Every screen on the bridge flickered, and then Admiral Kwan Taeyang's face appeared. She looked calm, almost bored. We simply have better ones. And better stealth systems. And better everything, honestly. But we tried to warn you. You think you can defeat 800 ships with tricks? Not tricks, War Master. Technology. Training, preparation. Admiral Kwan leaned forward slightly. We knew you were coming 6 months ago. We have had plenty of time to prepare our welcome. Outside the viewport, the battle raged. But it was not a battle. It was a slaughter. Human. Ships moved through the Velith fleet like wolves through a flock of sheep. They did not target the core systems. They did not try to destroy the Velith vessels. Instead, they aimed for engines, weapons, and communication arrays. They were crippling the fleet ship by ship. They are not killing us, Relax said suddenly. Look at the casualty reports. They are disabling our ships, not destroying them. What does it matter? Drennock snarled. Dead or drifting, we cannot fight back. It matters because they could kill us. They could end this in minutes if they wanted to. But they are choosing mercy. Relax's voice carried wonder and fear in equal measure. Why would they do that? On the surface of New Bizen, a small Velith landing force had broken through the space battle. 50 dropships carrying 2,000. Soldiers had made it past the human fleet and descended toward the colony. It was a desperate move. A last attempt to seize something of value before the fleet was completely disabled. Sergeant Major Oh Kyung-hee watched them coming on her tactical display. She was not worried. All units, the guests are arriving. Remember your training. Remember what we fight for. She picked up her rifle and checked the charge. Make them regret setting foot on our world. The dropships landed in the fields outside the main city. Velith soldiers poured out, weapons ready, expecting to face frightened civilians and minimal resistance. They found neither. The first squad advanced 50 meters before the ground beneath them exploded. Hidden mines and traps turned the landing zone into chaos. Velith soldiers scattered, seeking cover, trying to understand what was happening. Then the humans attacked. They came from everywhere and nowhere. From buildings that had looked abandoned, from tunnels beneath the fields, from positions so well hidden that the Velith sensors had marked them as empty ground. They moved fast, faster than any species the Velith had ever fought. They worked in perfect coordination, each soldier knowing exactly where their companions were without needing to communicate. Private First Class An Donghain was 19 years old. This was his first real battle. His hand shook slightly as he aimed his rifle at the advancing aliens. But his voice was steady when he spoke. "Sergeant, I have 3 targets at 40 meters, requesting permission to engage." "Permission granted. Make them count." Donghain fired 3 times. 3 Velith soldiers fell. Not dead, but stun-setting. On his rifle was powerful enough to drop any organic being. The humans were not trying to kill. They were trying to win. The battle on the surface lasted 2 hours. When it ended, every Velith soldier was either unconscious or surrounded with no hope of escape. Human casualties were minimal. Medical teams moved through the battlefield, treating wounded Velith alongside wounded humans. One young Velith soldier woke to find a human standing over him. He reached for his weapon, but it was gone. He tried to rise, but his body would not obey. "Easy," the human said. It was Private Donghain, his rifle slung over his shoulder, a medical kit in his hands. "You took a bad fall when you went down. Possible head injury. Lie still." "Why?" The Velith voice was weak. "Why are you helping me?" "Because you are injured. Because I can help. Because that is what we do. I came here to kill your people. To burn your cities." Donghain shrugged. "You failed. Now you're just a wounded soldier who needs medical attention. The war is over for you. What comes next is up to people above my pay grade." The Velith stared at the young human with something that might have been confusion. In all his training, in all the stories he had heard about other species, he had never encountered anything like this. Mercy to a defeated enemy. Aid to someone who had tried to kill them. What kind of species were these humans? In space, the battle was ending. What had begun with 800 Velith warships now showed only drifting hulks on the tactical displays. Engines dead. Weapons cold. Communication arrays destroyed. The entire invasion fleet, the pride of the Dominion, had been reduced to helpless targets in less than 3 hours. Captain Choi Yeon-woo guided his stealth destroyer, the Silent Thunder, through the wreckage. His mission was complete. Drenak's flagship floated dead ahead, its weapons torn away, its engines silent. "Good work, everyone," Choi said to his crew. "Dr. Lim, how is the ghost field holding?" "Perfectly, Captain." Dr. Lim Soo-jin's voice came from the engineering section. "We could stay invisible for another 12 hours if needed." "It will not be needed. The War Master has nowhere left to run." On the bridge of the Conqueror's Fist, Drenak sat in his command chair and stared at nothing. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to restore some kind of function to their ship. They had found nothing that still worked. Admiral Kwan's face appeared on the emergency backup screen. The only system the humans had left operational. "War Master Drenak, your fleet is disabled. Your landing force has surrendered. You have no weapons, no engines, and no hope of rescue." Her voice was calm, professional, almost gentle. "It is over. Then destroy us, Drenok said. End it. Give us a warrior's death. No, the single word hit harder than any weapon. I am going to do something far worse than kill you, War Master. I am going to let you live. I am going to let all of you live. Admiral Kwan's eyes showed something that might have been pity. And then I am going to send footage of this battle to every species in the galaxy. I'm going to show them what happens when someone enters human space uninvited. Drenok closed his eyes. He understood now. Death would have been a mercy. Death would have let the Veleth claim they have fought bravely against an overwhelming enemy. But this was proof that the humans had beaten them without even trying their hardest. This was humiliation that would echo through history. You have two choices, Admiral Kwan continued. Surrender your fleet and we will return your people unharmed. Medical attention for the wounded. Food and water for everyone. Eventual return to Veleth space after negotiations are complete. And the second choice? Wait here and hope for reinforcements. But I should tell you something. The Admiral's smile was thin and cold. Your High Council just received the footage. They watched 800 ships become scrap metal in less than 3 hours. They are not sending reinforcements. They are sending diplomats. Drenok opened his eyes. He looked at Torvan, who had warned him. He looked at Relax, who had tried to explain. They had been right about everything. And now the entire Dominion would pay the price for not listening. We surrender, he said quietly. A wise choice. Admiral Kwan nodded once. My people will begin rescue operations immediately. Your wounded will be treated. Your dead will be honored. And when this is over, perhaps your species will remember something important. What is that? We could have killed you all. Every single one. We chose not to. A voice carried a weight that seemed to fill the entire bridge. Remember that mercy, War Master. Remember it when you are old and telling stories to your grandchildren. The stars looked cold and empty at the edge of human-controlled space. Fleet Commander Torvan stood on the bridge of his scout vessel, the Quiet Blade, and watched the darkness through the main viewport. His forearms were folded behind his back in the traditional pose of Veleth confidence. His green scales caught the light from the control panels around him. We are approaching the border, Commander, said Sub-Commander Relax from his station. The younger officer's voice carried a note of worry that Torvan did not like. I can see that, Torvan replied. Continue forward. The Quiet Blade was officially on a resource survey mission. The Veleth High Council had sent them to map mineral deposits in unclaimed space. But Torvan knew the truth. Everyone on this ship knew the truth. They were here to study human defenses. They were here to find weaknesses. The invasion fleet was already gathering at SciFiPrime, and the High Council needed information. Torvan was not worried. The Veleth Dominion had ruled their sector of the galaxy for 12,000 years. They had conquered 37 species. They had built an empire that stretched across 200 star systems. And humans? Humans had only been traveling between stars for 300 years. They were children playing at being adults. A soft chime filled the bridge. Every screen flickered once, and then a message appeared in bright red letters. The ship's computer translated it automatically. You are approaching human-controlled space. Transmit identification and intent. Failure to comply will be considered hostile action. Torvan let out a low laugh. The sound rumbled from deep in his chest. How dramatic. Do they think this frightens us? Commander, Relax said carefully, perhaps we should identify ourselves. The protocols suggest. The protocols were written by diplomats who have never seen real battle. Torvan waved one of his hands in dismissal. We are the Veleth Dominion. We do not ask permission to travel through space. He turned to his navigation officer. Continue on our current heading. Ignore the warning. The Quiet Blade moved forward. The invisible line of the human border passed beneath them. For a long moment, nothing happened. Torvan felt his confidence grow. The humans were weak. Their warnings were empty threats. Then a new contact appeared on the sensor display. Single vessel approaching, the sensor officer reported. Small patrol ship. Human design. They are calling themselves the Sentinel's Watch. Torvan looked at the display and smiled. The human ship was tiny compared to the quiet blade. It was like watching a small fish swim toward a hunting shark. One ship? They send one ship to challenge us? They are hailing us, Commander. Put it through. The main screen changed to show a human face. Torvan studied the creature with mild curiosity. He had seen humans before in intelligence reports, but never spoken to one directly. This one was male, with black hair cut short and dark eyes that showed no emotion at all. He wore a simple gray uniform with a single symbol on the chest. I am Captain Yoon Ha-jun of the United Earth Defense Force, the human said. His voice was calm and steady. You have entered human-controlled space without authorization. You have 60 seconds to reverse course. This is not a negotiation. Torvan leaned forward in his command chair. I am Fleet Commander Torvan of the Velith Dominion. We are conducting a survey mission. Your space is in our path. We will pass through whether you approve or not. The human captain did not react. His face remained perfectly still. You now have 50 seconds. You threaten me with one small ship? Torvan laughed again. I have faced armadas, human. I have burned worlds. Your little boat does not frighten me. 40 seconds. Relax moved closer to Torvan's chair. Commander, I have been studying human military history. They do not make empty threats. When they say they will act, they act. Then let them act, Torvan said loudly. Let them fire their tiny weapons at our shields. Let them learn what it means to challenge the Velith Dominion. On the screen, Captain Yoon turned his head slightly. He seemed to be listening to someone off camera. A female voice spoke briefly in the human language. The captain nodded once. 30 seconds, he said. I should tell you something, Commander. Behind me, there is a young officer named Lieutenant Beek Sora. She handles our communications. She asked me to give you a chance to leave peacefully. She said that maybe you simply do not understand the situation. Torvan snorted. I understand perfectly. You are alone. You are outgunned. You are trying to bluff your way out of a fight you cannot win. 20 seconds. The captain's expression did not change. Lieutenant Beek was wrong about you. I told her that some species have to learn the hard way. She bet me a week's pay that you would turn around. I bet her that you would not. Your lieutenant owes you money, human. We will see. 10 seconds. Torvan stood from his chair. All crew, prepare for battle. Raise shields to full power. Charge all weapons. We will teach these humans to respect. Time's up, Captain Yoon said quietly. A red light flashed across the bridge. Alarms began to sound. The sensor officer's voice cracked with sudden fear. Commander, a targeting laser just painted our bridge viewport. It passed through our shields. Our shields did not detect it at all. Torvan felt something cold move through his chest. He looked at the viewport and saw nothing. No beam, no light. But the sensors did not lie. The humans had touched them without any warning. They had reached through the quiet blade's defenses like they were not even there. On the screen, Captain Yoon finally showed a small expression. It might have been a smile. It did not reach his eyes. That was a marker beam, Commander. Just light. Nothing harmful. I wanted you to understand something before we continue. What? Torvan's voice came out quieter than he intended. Your shields are very impressive. The best Velith technology, I am sure. They would stop most weapons in this galaxy. The captain paused. They will not stop ours. Not even slightly. Relax grabbed Torvan's arm. Commander, we need to leave. Now, please. But Torvan could not move. He was staring at the human on the screen. 300 years. These creatures had only been traveling between stars for 300 years. How was this possible? You now have 30 seconds, Captain Yoon said. His voice was still calm, still steady, like he was discussing the weather instead of war. The next thing we paint you with will not be light. I suggest you use this time wisely. The screen went dark. Torvan looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at him. They were waiting for orders. They were waiting for him to tell them what to do. But for the first time in his long career, Fleet Commander Torvan did not know the answer. The counter on his display showed 25 seconds. Remaining .20-4.20-3. Outside the viewport, the star still looked cold and empty. But now Torvan understood that they were not empty at all. Something was out there. Something was watching. And it had just shown him exactly how small and weak his mighty warship really was. The humans had given him a warning. One warning. And deep in his heart, Torvan knew that he had already wasted it.